let's please be nice to each other. I think the recording started now because the spinning stopped. I will not repeat the intro third time, so let's get to the agenda now. And I have put like a list of upcoming features in Grafana Mimir that we know that we are working on, and some of them are already available. So I will just list some of them, and I know some people who are working on those features are in this call. So I may point at you and ask for more details. So first one is actually about the ruler. In the past, ruler always executed the queries inside the instance, and now we are changing that so that the ruler can run queries through the query front end. Miguel worked on this feature. I actually don't see him on the call. No. So this feature is already ready, and it will be part of Mimir 2.1. The next feature that Jesus, I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name.
Yes, Jesus is fine.
Jesus works on is the support for out-of-order samples. So Jesus, if you want to take over and tell us a little bit more about it, now is your time.
Okay, so I wanted to use this call to share the design doc that we've been working on for the past couple of months. It's public, so anyone can read and suggest modifications. I'm super excited right now because I did not do this on purpose, but like we are ingesting samples now in the dev cluster since 3 minutes ago. So like I'm a bit looking at the graphs while attending this call as well. So we expect to have support for out of order samples in like maybe a month from now or perhaps a bit later. Like we need to be exhaustive with tests, but just let everybody know that we're working on this. And yeah, any suggestion is very welcome.
Is this also going to be useful for backfilling, for ingesting old samples, or how far back can you actually go?
So the design we've made could ingest samples like I think Ganesh said 100 years old, but we are actually setting an allowance parameter in Mimir and also Prometheus TSDP basically, which is called the allowance, and like you said, it's a duration, so you can say 30 minutes, 1 hour. The reason why we do this is because we want to be careful writing out of order samples because of the design can have performance like a performance impact on the database. So that's why we don't want to allow very old samples to come in. It could do it, but we think it's more common to have like 5-minute old samples than a year-old sample. So the use case we are trying to solve first is the former, not the latter. So yeah, that's our objective for now.
All right. Does anyone has question about this feature? If not, we can always get back. Yeah, go on, Marco.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could share more details about the testing plan.
Yes. So one of the things we've done is we have forked the tool you have, Marco, the Cortex load generator, and we are generating out of order samples with it. That's like the initial part of it. I think at the moment we are sending like 700 samples to a dev cluster with ingesters, and we are seeing how it handles. We are concerned about memory mapping, memory usage, and the compaction. So that's things we need to look at very carefully, I guess, in the following days. And then the other thing that we wanted to explore was this issue you mentioned about adding latency in the ingesters and see how it behaves. And also Steve the other day came up with mentioned an issue about that sometimes we get too many out-of-bound samples, and that causes an issue in Mimir, and so we want to also test that, like send more and more out-of-order samples that go far in the time, and see how this is handled. Yeah. And I mean, if anyone has any suggestions for the tests, they are welcome. We are also looking for new ideas. Yeah.
And you also mentioned that you're going to you introduced in TSDB an option to configure how far in the past we can ingest out-of-order samples. I'm wondering if there's also an option to completely disable the out-of-order logic, or if the same option, or there's no option at all.
Yes, it's actually the same option. So if the option is unset or is set to 0, out-of-order is not allowed, and in the TSDB path, that logic is never called. Yeah, this has been running for a couple of hours, and we tested that it works as expected. And then if you set it to a non-zero value, then the logic gets called. Yeah. Yeah, then there's also an interesting detail here. Out-of-order introduces a new type of chunk to the Prometheus TSDB. So that's a breaking change that makes newer versions not compatible with old versions. So like a rollback from this version would not be possible. But we have done a change in the middle where we made Prometheus discard unknown chunks in case it finds any. So like that's a step in the middle for this, and it introduces the possibility to roll back in case there was any trouble that we didn't account for. Yeah.
So in that case, it will only skip chunks with out-of-order samples?
Right. That's yeah. They have a different encoding, so yeah.
And will the out-of-order data affect the compression ratio? Would it make it worse?
So the way what can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Would the compression become worse if there's a lot of out-of-order data in that new chunk tab?
Compression of the chunks?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Sorry, that's a good question. I don't have an answer for that. I need to ask Ganesh. I think he has more knowledge about that than me. Yeah, I need to check because like I'm not very aware about how the compression works. Yeah. So out of order chunks get compacted into overlapping blocks. That's what I know, and I don't know then when blocks get merged, the in order data and out of order blocks get merged. I don't know what's happening with the compression there.
Is there already a change in Compactor that would make these out-of-order samples part of the standard blocks that we use?
So the way the compactor, you mean the compactor component in Mimir, right? That reads the block and merges it.
Yes,
No.
but it actually uses the Prometheus compactor code.
Yeah. So the way this is, so we are leveraging on that compactor. So basically, when the TSDB compacts the memory map chunks, it will generate a persistent block for in-order data, and then potentially overlapping blocks for out-of-order data. And then we are leveraging on the compactor to see them all and merge them. So no need for changes. I think the actual implementation works. Yeah.
Okay, and in the blocks there will only be standard XOR chunks, not the new type of chunks, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. Cool. All right. Does anyone has more questions about this feature? So Jesus mentioned that this is not going to be used for backfilling. And for backfilling, we are actually introducing new API that Arve is working on. Arve, do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So we already have support for backfilling blocks into Mimir, but it's a manual procedure where one will upload old blocks into object storage. So the compactor will make use of them. So what I'm doing is basically add support into Mimir for sending blocks for backfilling. So basically, I'm first of all adding API endpoints for creating a so-called backfill session, and then you have another endpoint for sending backfill files for a certain block to be backfilled. In addition to the API, there is also I'm also adding support to the Mimir tool, so you can perform backfilling from the command line via that tool. And the work is currently at the prototype stage, but the basic functionality has been implemented. So I'm hoping it will be done in not too long, although there are some architectural questions being discussed in the PR, specifically which component in which to put the backfill API. At the moment, it's in the distributor component, but there's discussion as to whether we should move it perhaps directly to the compactor instead to avoid the distributor having to send the files to ingesters because the ingesters have access to object storage and the distributor does not.
Yeah. Is there also some kind of validation of blocks that are uploaded?
There are plans to implement that, but it's not part of the prototype yet because it's more effective to just implement the let's say the basic parts first, and then we'll get to validation later. And once we nailed the architectural questions, for example, and yes.
The reason I'm asking is, as you know, we have uploaded some of the customers' blocks to the storage, and then the blocks were wrong and caused compactors to fail. So we definitely need to have some validation before accepting them.
Yeah, I've certainly experienced that. So I very much see the need for validation.
Any questions about this API for backfilling? I'm myself pretty excited about it because we do some customers backfilling, and this will make it nicer and easier. Next feature we plan to have in Mimir 2.1 is about streaming chunks for remote read API.
Sorry, maybe as a short interjection, only two things. First, feel more than welcome to write yourselves into the agenda, into the attendee list, in particular if you're external. I messed up. That should have been world writable from the start. Marco just fixed it. Sorry. The other thing is, in particular for the external people, please feel super welcome to pipe up at any point in time. Like this is not Grafana talking to you. This is supposed to be a conversation. So if you have anything, also you feel more than welcome to, now that it's possible, add stuff to the agenda before the calls, blah, 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 blah. All of this will take time to set up and for you to become comfortable with this. I know, of course, like it's super weird to just speak up, but we don't bite, honest promise. So yeah, really feel welcome and invited to talk or write in chat or into the meeting notes at any time. And over time we'll prove that we are not biting, and so you'll also
We
be
can
more
try to
familiar.
bite over meat. I don't wonder how that would work. Okay, but jokes aside. So support for string chunks, I was talking about that. It's a little optimization in the remote read API that we hope to land in time for Mimir 2.1. We also hopefully will get multi-architecture Docker images that we have been working on for some time. And yeah, hopefully they will be available for all of us Mac M1 users and also people running on small ARM chips. If you have questions about upcoming Mimir, feel free to ask now. Otherwise, we get to the next point of the agenda, which is next release from Marco.
Okay. Yeah, the next release, 2.1, is scheduled for the week of 16th of May. The first release, 2.0, was led by me, and now we are looking for a volunteer among Mimir maintainers to lead the next release. Is anyone in the call hoping to lead the release?
If nobody else wants, I would do that. But if you want, feel free to say now.
Drum roll. Not much excitement to lead the release. Thank you, Peter, for volunteering.
Yeah, no problem. It's been a while. Mike, we also have the next item.
Yeah, right. Yeah, me and a few other people are starting an effort to further simplify Mimir from an operational perspective. Both getting Mimir up and running on the day zero, as well as operating Mimir over the time. So yeah, I just have a very open question to you. We can discuss it right now, like in a time box fashion, 10 minutes or so. And then if you want to reach out offline on Slack to continue the discussion, I'm very happy to do it. But basically my question is, in your opinion, given your experience with Mimir, what's your personal top priority to get Mimir easier to install and operate? What's the issue you got getting started with Mimir? Or if you migrated from another system to Mimir, what was the pain point? Yeah. Does anyone want to share anything about it?
Or have people even tried Mimir outside of Grafana Labs?
We are receiving many questions on Slack, and some of them are about the configuration. So I think just scrolling the Slack community channel, we can learn a lot about it. I've already seen a few times the question about how to configure the GCS and S3 bucket authentication. And I think that's one of the information which are lacking from our documentation. So probably there's a good opportunity to improve the documentation about the bucket configuration. What do you think, Raya? Because you are also in touch with many community users running the Helm chart.
Yes, I think that's fair to say. So we've introduced our Helm chart quite recently, and it's previously our Helm chart was more aimed at enterprise customers. So this is our first Helm chart for the OSS community, and we are receiving lots of valuable feedback. And as Marco says, one of that is, how do I configure things, and especially the buckets. So yeah, we have some plans in place to improve that. One of which is that there will be support for getting secrets from environment into the Mimir config, so that you don't have to write it into your config, and also which would mean eventually that the config doesn't have to be a secret in Kubernetes, so that you would get nice diff when you change your config. And also we're thinking of possibly making wiring the storage settings into the values and not direct, and kind of templating it into the configuration, because right now I see that one challenge is that the storage has to be configured at multiple places, and it's kind of a hassle to know when to set which one and how many places I have to set it. So one way around that is, making the Helm chart do that for you, basically. The one thing that we would like to avoid is to have too much magic in the Helm chart, because we already had feedback for the old chart, or the enterprise chart, that sometimes it's hard to know what the actual configuration will be in the end, with things coming in from different sources and CRI flags affecting a configuration and stuff like that. So this is work in progress, and you can find the related issues in the Helm chart repository.
We've also had a few questions from community members around capacity planning. And we've got some things in the docs, but it doesn't cover all components like memcache. And I think we could also we could add some more information about expected instance sizes or something like that. Like, if you're in Google Cloud, use these type. If you're in AWS, use these type. Something like that.
Sorry, Nick, by type you mean the storage?
I meant VM sizes.
VM sizes. Mm-hmm.
For your Kubernetes cluster or what have you.
I've also seen from community questions some confusion around the ruler and alert manager configuration. I think our documentation, even if we put some effort to improve the documentation before the Mimir launch about the ruler and the alert manager, I think it's not 100% clear how they should be configured. So probably we could reiterate on the documentation to improve it as well.
And to add to that, I think it's kind of obvious that we need like more documentation about how to use features with Helm chart, because judging by the feedback on the Slack channel and the Helm chart repo, people are clearly interested in the Helm chart. So, it needs better documentation.
Do we have a plan to have Helm chart with a single service mode? No, sorry, with monolithic mode?
Not immediate plans. I think we want to work out the kinks of the newly introduced Mimir Helm chart, and then add more modes of deployment a bit later.
Has anyone tried to migrate their Cortex perhaps to Mimir? I guess that's no. And
by the way,
people who,
sorry, yeah.
Go on.
No, I was just wondering because if we talked about new features for Mimir, maybe I should have put into the agenda like upcoming things for the Helm chart as well. And the Helm chart is there are pull requests in the works to support multi-zone, so zone-aware replication of ingester, storage gateways, alert manager. Also, we have PR and work going on for supporting OpenShift out of the box, and then that kind of security posture, because right now you will have trouble running on OpenShift, and other small improvements. But that's the two main things I would say.
Earlier, Kayo, you mentioned that you would like to configure the storage in a single place in the Helm chart. And I actually would like to do the same, but in the Mimir configuration. That's something Loki did. And it works similar to the Prometheus global config option, where you configure basically the defaults, sort of defaults. And I wanted to propose something similar, like having a global entry in the Mimir configuration where you can set some, again, sorry for the repetition, global configuration. And then if you want, on a per component level, you can override it. And the main reason why we still may want to override it is because for the block storage and ruler and alert manager, we can't use the same bucket. They conflict. We have this limitation right now. Unfortunately, we haven't been smart enough when we built the block storage. The solution was simple. It was just storing all the TSDB blocks under a prefix in the storage, like under blocks, for example, so that it doesn't conflict with the ruler and alert manager. But anyway, I think that's something we can work on. Handy, if I'm not mistaken, is working on a PR to allow to configure the bucket prefix in Mimir. I hope it's you, Handy.
I think that was Dimitar, actually.
Dimitar. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so that will unlock the option to run Mimir with just one single bucket. That's why I'm particularly interested into that work. But yeah, do you have any comment about introducing a global config, starting with the storage?
If you're asking me, I'm all for it, obviously, because doing it in Helm feels like a bit of cheating, or solving a problem that shouldn't really be there.
Do you imagine this will replace the individual configs in the future? Like we would get rid of the ability to configure ruler, alert manager, and TSDB to use different buckets? Or will those always exist in your mind?
In my mind, they will keep existing. We just give an easy way to configure the storage in a single place. But if you want to have different config between blocks, ruler, and alert manager, you can still have it.
Thank you.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay, cool. Well, I think the time-boxed discussion is over, so probably we can move to the next item in the agenda.
Well, we don't really have more items. We have open mic. Cryo has already talked about the new Helm features, and I put your item speaking about global configuration for storage there. So we are actually at the end of agenda now. I'm wondering, you have a question about it, anything hold you back from trying Mimir? And I'm wondering if there is anyone who did not try Mimir but would like to, but is for whatever reason stopped or maybe held back. Again, I guess that's a no. Well, in that case, we can go to the open mic. Does anybody want to say anything before we conclude this meeting? I'm curious about people who are not from Grafana Labs. What are you doing with Mimir, if anything? What's your plan about using Mimir? Do you want to speak up, Andre? And perhaps introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. I have a Cortex cluster running on Kubernetes, configured with Helm charts. I'm still planning on migrating. Still reading the changes from Cortex and Mimir. It's a relatively small cluster running on AWS. I think we have like 5 million active series. Yeah, that's it.
Are you using blocks or chunks from Cortex?
Blocks.
Okay, so it should be relatively easy, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for sharing.
Sure.
And I see all the other non-Grafana Labs people have already left. So I have nobody else to ask this question. So is there anything more we can talk about today?
So have you agreed on moving the meeting half an hour earlier?
We haven't yet agreed on doing that, but yeah, we will probably do that in order to avoid the clash with Prometheus Dev Summit.
Okay.
Well, in that case, thank you very much for attending, and see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you.